And I think we are live. Chris, you are my special guest today. And guys, if you are with me, I want to introduce, we're not going to say this too often because it'll go to his head, but one of my favorite teachers and somebody who has taught me so much over the year. Y'all, when I do math, the fact that I can even add or subtract or divide, it is because of Mr. Chris Barnett. So, I mean, I guess I could give you some applause or a song or something, but I'm not going to do that because you're just amazing.
How,
And
how about if
yeah.
I just give you that money that I paid you to say that? That would be good. I'll just take you out
And
for a,
hey, Caroline. Hey, William. Hey, Perlita. We've got people here. So, you know the drill. I know you all are going to come in, but I wanted to start today off with something besides introducing Chris, which you all are going to be able to hear his explanations. And again, we're not going to let this go to his head. We don't keep Chris in the basement like we do Seth, but he is much better at giving shorter, clearer explanations of stuff than I am. So I wanted to talk about something I've gotten a lot of questions about lately, Chris, and I'm going to share a different screen, which is encumbrances. I've had a ton of people, oh, not that screen, but this screen. I've had a ton of people lately just be confused about what is an encumbrance and the fact that there's types of encumbrances. And I was hoping you would give us like a brief, just what do you think people need to understand about encumbrances? So I'm going to give you the floor and you tell me, and I'll even put you in a little window. I think I can do that.
okay.
Boom. Nope. Now you're not little.
And, and it
There
covered
you
part of
go.
it. There you go.
Haha.
There, now I can see it.
There you
Okay.
are. So, hey, Abby, thanks. Hey, Bryce. But Chris, go ahead. Tell them what you think they need to know. I mean, this I found this flow chart, but I'm gonna let you go for it.
Okay. When it comes to encumbrances, first of all, you're clearly going to get tested on this topic. Secondly, though, you're not going to get a lot of test questions on this topic. So, in my mind, I always think in terms of what are the top two or three things that they're going to ask. In other words, what I mean by that is that when we start getting down into the minutia of some of this, I don't expect you to really know it that well. What I really expect you to know is the topical stuff very well. For example, the first part of it is the definition of the word encumbrances. What a lot of people don't realize is an encumbrance is any burden to title, any burden to title. There are some things that are more burdensome than others, okay? But they can also be burdens. For example, the most simple one to think about is when I buy my house, I didn't have the cash to buy my house. So what I had to do is go to the bank and borrow some money. I put down some cash, I borrowed some money. When I borrowed some money from the bank, they put a, look down there about the fifth word, they put a lien on my house. I'm not worried about that lien. To be honest with you, every month I make my payment. And as long as I make my payment, it's never going to be an issue. And then when I sell my house, that lien has to be paid off. So is it an encumbrance? Yes, it's a burden to the title. Is it one that keeps me awake at night? No, it doesn't keep me awake because I know that the proceeds from the sale will be enough to cover that particular lien. When you jump back to the top and you look at the word encroachments, now encroachments is a little different story. Encroachments have caused me to lose sleep before. But in my mind, I already have a way of dealing with encroachments. The definition of an encroachment is basically something that intrudes one property intrudes onto the property of another.
Is
The
that
most
kind of
co-
like when I make you take me to lunch?
kind of like that. That is in fact an encumbrance on my wallet when you make me take you to lunch because you are creative on the menu. So yes, that's an example of an encumbrance.
Mm.
On the encroachment, though, you can kind of anticipate what the questions on the test are going to be. It's like boom, boom, boom. Here are the three important points. First of all, the definition of an encroachment. I just gave you that one property intruding on another without permission. Secondly, you would want to have some examples of an encroachment: fences, outbuildings, driveways, trees. Trees that grow on your property, but they hang over your property line encumber your neighbor's property. So now you've got examples of encumbrances, I'm sorry, excuse me, encroachments. And then what do you do about it? And the way we discover encroachments is through the survey process. And you know what? My eyes are not great, actually, but it's not my job as an agent to eyeball a line and determine whether something is encroaching or over a setback or something like that. My eyes are not that good. I can't do it. But as an agent, I'm going to recommend, hey, Mr. Buyer, you need to have a survey done. Well, how much is that, Chris? Well, it's $850. That's how much it's going to cost. Are you sure I really need one of those? You absolutely need a survey done, because that's how, among other things, we're going to discover encroachments. Watch out for this on the test. The title search will not necessarily uncover encroachments. You're going to have to do something physical like a survey to determine these encroachments. So in that little short time, we address liens and encroachments. Candace, are we going in the right direction? What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think that is exactly what I was looking for, because people just, I think encumbrances, A, it's a yucky word. And then B, I think we just get so confused because there's so many. But between your explanations, which are always so much more concise than mine, because you're not insane, and just understanding there's encumbrances and there's types of encumbrances, and not all of them are negative, that's what I wanted. So, my question is for you all. What questions do you have? Whether it is encumbrances, whether it's a type of encumbrances, whether it's something that you all studied, you know how we work around here. You give me your questions, and what I will do is we will answer them. And hello to everybody. We have about, like, I think 20 some odd people watching. So I know y'all aren't shy. Don't get shy just because I got Chris here tonight. Don't do me like that, people. I know you have questions, so go ahead and drop them in the chat. Now, Chris, I will tell you, we get a little bit of a delay between what they see and what we're saying, and that's cool. But before they drop in the questions, I do have a question for you.
Okay.
The other day you mentioned, like, when it comes to studying, and like, or let's just say in general, a lot of the people that are going to be watching this are like, okay, I'm trying to pass this test. It's my fourth time. What do you suggest I do? So, keeping it short until we get another question, or maybe nobody
Okay.
has a question. What would you suggest if it's my fourth time and I'm struggling?
Okay. Well, first of all, if it's your fourth time, then you have a really good readout of what you missed, because if you don't pass, you get a readout of where you did well and where you did poorly. Now, good news, bad news. If you did poorly in the same areas every time, that's a roadmap for what you need to study. In other words, you spend all your time studying that. Now, if you're all over the place and there's no consistency on this, I cheat. I'm a statistics type guy. And what I do is I go where most of the points are. And where the most of the points are is very, very predictable. License, law, and commission rules. You need to
Well,
know it.
for North
And
Carolina. So remember,
I'm
we're
sorry for
national. Yep.
I forget that we're talking to a national audience on this. But then also, you know that the categories about agency, contracts, finance, valuation. In other words, what I'm telling you is if I need to get points in bulk, I go to where the points are. There are going to be some little chapters out there, which, you know what, I want you to pick up those little points. But at the end of the day, you got a 25% chance of getting them right anyway. And we have one category, Candace, you can help me on this because you know the outlines better than I do. But there's one category where there's 4 subject areas and there's only one question on the whole test.
That happens
You
a
know,
lot in a lot of
yeah,
states.
so I'm not going to spend a ton of time reading those 4 chapters to get 1 point when I could be spending extra time on finance or
I love it.
valuation, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, my strategy, Candace, is at the end of the day, if there's a topic out there that I honestly believe that's going to be tested, I ask myself, what are the 3 to 5 things that Candace said, that Chris said, that Prep Agent said, that whatever said? If I see the same things coming up over and over, guys, it's not your goal to make 100 on this test. It's your goal to make anything north of passing.
Now,
So
speaking
that's
of
where you
passing, I'm gonna cut you off. We got to cut you off because Shima, what? You passed?
Congratulations.
Good job, good job. Good job, good job. TOODJOB, good job, good job.
And you know you get your song.
My money don't jiggle, jiggle, it falls. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure.
Sorry, Chris, you've never seen that before, but we have a thing here where we celebrate people who pass because because you're old and done it for so long. It is just an amazing feat. So whenever people pass, we celebrate it here, and it's a big deal. So congratulations to passing. We are so proud of you. And if you want to drop any suggestions or anything like that in there, you can.
Yep.
But we are both proud of you. But I want to go back to, speaking of passing, you said something, and you said it just now, but it was a thing. Think back and go a little bit more. Thinking back to those 3 or 5 things that you've heard me say, or you say, or any of us as teachers saying. I think that is an amazing. Well, I'll let you talk about that some more for a second.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I don't care how well you study for the exam. You're going to come back and there's going to be something that was so far out in left field, you're just going to miss it, or you have a 25% chance of getting it right. Let it be what it's going to be, and concentrate on those items that you know come up consistently. And here's what I found in my class, Candace. I haven't done this in years, but I still think the number is right.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my students taking practice tests and things like that, I would say, focus on getting 83%. Don't try to get 100. Okay, that's going to drive you nuts trying to get 100. But we knew, statistically speaking, that if people scored at around 83% consistently on our practice test, that they were going to be fine when they went to the state level. And listen closely to what your instructors tell you on this. I had a case. I'm sorry to spend your time with a story, but I'll do it. And I'll do it really quick, Candace. But in our case, Candace mentioned a moment ago, we have something in North Carolina that is tested very, very specifically. And we have a document that addresses it. And I tell all of my students, read this document 3 times. The first time you read it, you're not going to know what you read. The second time you read it, you're going to start picking up things. And by the third time, literally, some of the things are going to come back to you inherently. So I have this woman, she comes back and she just blows me out because she didn't pass. And she goes off on the fact that she has a master's degree and all of this type stuff. And she's never failed a test before. I have not prepared her for this. She showed me the area that she scored poorly on. And I said, well, let me ask you something. I asked you to read this 3 times. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience with that? And she said, well, I scanned it. I said, well, I'm sorry. I think my instructions were to read it 3 times. You leave here, you go home, you read that 3 times, you go back and take the test in 10 days. Then you can come back and blow me out if you want to. And she came back and she passed. And here's what her exact words were. Why didn't you tell me that so many of the answers were in this document right here? You got to sell out. You got to have faith in the people that are giving you these instructions, and you do what they do.
I think it's especially true because people who are watching, they might have seen you on your YouTube channel. Y'all can YouTube him. You might have seen me. You might have seen Maria. You might have seen Stu. You might have seen Tiffany or Seth. I mean, I'm giving you all such a broad range of find the teacher that fits for you. But you'll notice a lot of us say the same thing over and over. Know your vocab. Know this. Know that. Understand this about this topic. Take it what we're saying and do it. So, Chris, we actually do have some questions that did pop up. So I'm going to read our first one. You want to see some magic that I can do? Chris, this will impress you. Our first question, I can be like, whoop.
Thank you. I couldn't see it over here, so thank you for bobbing that up.
When a property is underwater, what's it say? It means that it has an encumbrance. I'll let you do that. I'll let you tackle that one. Is that?
You know what? First of all, Perlita, if I pronounced that anywhere close to correctly, thank you for the question. Pop it back up there again real quickly because I'm going through a thought process here.
Oh, Lord,
Candace,
don't hurt yourself, old man.
No, it's going to sound offensive, and I don't mean it to. So bear with me if you don't mind until we get to the end. My guess is if you're getting questions about water and property being underwater, there's a decent chance it's not going to be tested in the encumbrance section. It could, but my guess is that would more likely be tested under the water rights section where it's
Oh,
talking about,
oh, see, I thought by encumbrance she meant being underwater with her loan.
oh, if she meant by being underwater on her loan, it's not so much the fact that she's underwater on her loan, it's the fact that she has a lien in general. Now, the problem with that encumbrance is if you're upside down, it is negative because it's going to be much more difficult for you to cover
Yes.
at closing. So I'm sorry, I went a different
Yeah.
direction with that
And that, I
altogether.
think that's what's hard about real estate because he's absolutely right. If we're talking about water rights, y'all drop this in the chat for me. What is it called? What's that fancy word that means water rights? Like you have littoral, and that's for lakes and oceans, but what's that other word that you could have?
Starts with an R.
Starts with an R. Can anybody tell me? I'm just gonna tell y'all because I don't have time to wait. It's riparian. Your riparian rights. So if it's talking about water, it could be talking about your riparian rights. But Perlita, I wasn't sure. I thought you were going with if somebody says they're underwater or upside down on their loan, then that means they owe more than the property's worth. But you let us know which one of us went in the right direction or if we're in the complete wrong direction because there's water and we could talk about water in all sorts of ways. So you're going to drop that in the chat for me. Our next question from Abby. I see you, Abby. You said, please break down tenancy in common. So tenancy in common is a form of co-ownership. Chris, what's that word when it's owned by one person?
Severalty, okay?
Ownership and severalty.
Yes. Now, look at the word severalty. One of the things, and you've probably heard Candace say this because we think with one mind a lot of times, but I'll say it anyway. Some people look at the word severalty and they get confused because they're concentrating on the word several. You need to concentrate on the word sever, as in to sever you from every other person. Severalty is ownership by one. And then as Candace started down the trail of co-ownerships, that's where you get tenancy in common. Take off.
Mm-hmm. And tenancy in common is the basic way for more than one person to own real estate. I tell my family all the time, Chris is now my real estate brother. He's my brother. But in reality, we are not related. Don't we look alike, though? Either way.
You have better hair.
Yes, but you have a better beard.
True.
Anyway, so I should hope. Either way, if we own, let's say beach, because Chris is going to retire to the beach one day here in North Carolina. If we owned a property, tenants in common at the beach, we could have separate interest. I could let him pay for 95% of it. I could have 5% interest in it, and yet he'd have to share it with me. We would have equal possession. Now you're going to call an attorney about if we decide to sell, who gets what, blah, blah, blah. But it's pretty much he should get 95% of it and I should get 5% of it for the most part. If he dies, not that he's going to, but if he were to die, it would go to his heirs, to his wife and his baby girl, right? If I were to die, it would go to my heirs, which at this point is looking like my cats. So, there's nothing funny about it. We could will it, we could sell it. That is tenancy in common. But Abby, what I need to know, since you're saying break down tenancy in common, you go ahead and you put in the chat, and I know there's going to be a little bit of a delay. Do you need to know how tenancy in common relates to other co-ownerships? I'm not going to go down that trail if we don't have to, but let me know if that was your question or if that's all you needed until we get, and I'm going to go to our next question somebody asked.
Actually, before you do, since there's
Okay.
a little gap,
Mhm.
you hit on something that was huge
Genius?
if they
Did I hit
understand
on
what it
something and I'm a
is.
genius?
That's right. You dealt with two different issues, possession and interest in regards to tenancy in common. Because notice she set up a situation where I own 95 and she owned 5. That's the interest that each of us has. If we sell it, we will get to collect the profits based on what our interest is. But in regards to possession, unless there's something that says otherwise, she can use the whole beach house. I can use the whole beach house. So that is extraordinary of how important that is to understand about tenancy in common.
Understanding that you're putting in 95% for our beach house is really important.
I assume I'd be putting in 100% and
Okay,
just
well,
let you
hey,
live there
even
with
better.
your cats.
I'll buy the steaks, I guess. All right, let's see. Our next question was, and I'm scrolling through. Lady G says she took a 3-year break and she's ready to come back and try again. Where can you register for a class from either one of us? Chris, are you teaching any pre-licensing right now?
Well, what state is she in?
Oh, you know what? That's an even better question. Lady G, You got to tell us what state you're in because we can only teach in North Carolina. But both of us do reviews and we have reviews. And for those national topics, you can totally come to us. So, Lady G, drop in the chat what state you're in. Going through, we got riparian. They were answering that question right
Okay,
because my
good.
people are
Solid.
geniuses, Chris. They know what they doing. I'm just
Excellent.
saying, right? And then we get to Christina. She says, "Can we explain if here? I'll put it on the screen, but it's gonna be big. If two people own a house together and one person stops paying a mortgage, what happens? Does it affect the other owner?" Oof, this is a big one. You want to try to tackle this because it's got lots of layers.
Okay. Let's start off just very topical. The answer to your question is yeah. I mean, there's one mortgage on the property, okay? And that mortgage is going to create a lien. And by the way, not to get too deep into this right now, a lot of people think of mortgage as being the loan. The word mortgage is not the loan. The mortgage is actually the collateralization instrument. It is the lien,
Can I
okay?
stop you and tell a story right here for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, one thing I want you to understand about what that scenario is setting up is that exactly what Chris said. When you say you're going to the bank to get a mortgage, you're actually going to the bank to give two documents to get some money: a promissory note and then a document that creates the house as collateral, either a literal mortgage, which is a lien, or a deed of trust. But either way, when you go, you have the ownership, like you and whoever it is have ownership of the property, and both of you have to sign the collateral documents for the most part. There's some other ones. And it always reminds me of this story that somebody told that worked at a bank. And the bank had this couple. So let's say Chris and I, we come into the bank, we're going to go get this loan. His last name is Barnett, my last name is Ellis, but we're like, we're married, it doesn't matter, we'll sign all the documents, we're good. So we're going through the process. They're getting ready to get us to sign the loan. And all of a sudden, right before closing, they're like, well, we just need to see some proof of marriage. And they were like, oh, see, I am married, but not to Chris. Chris is married. And I'm married, but we're not married to each other. We're trying to buy a little love shack here. And whenever I think of this story, it makes me think of mortgages and deeds of trust, and kind of like what your question is, in that, yes, two people could own the house, but both of us probably had to sign the document that says we'll allow the bank to use our house as collateral. Does that make sense? Like, first of all, shady, but second of all, yeah, like, and I'm going to let you go back to what you were saying, Chris, but I always think of that story, which is this idea that you, of course, both parties are going to have to be, they're going to have to sign off for that house to be collateral for the loan. But
Yeah.
I digress. Go for it, Chris.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you want to go this deep on it or not. It was Christina, right? I don't know if you want to go this deep on it or not, because I don't think it's going to be one of the top 3 to 5 things that is tested on this. I'm going to break it down to a level 1 that might be tested on this, and it goes something like this. If 4 people own property as tenants in common, and each one of them owns 25%, I can do whatever I want to with my 25%. I can sell it, I can leave it to my heirs if I die, et cetera, et cetera. Technically, I can go to the bank and I can use it as collateral for a debt. However, here's what's interesting about it. Even though I can do that, the bank might not be inclined to give me money because they would have to stand in line with other people. And banks, when they loan you money on your home, they always want to be in the first position on that. So in other words, all I could ever do is collateralize my 25%. And that's why it would be extraordinarily rare for one, the test to go there, or for a bank to go
Yeah,
there.
because more than likely they would have all 4 people sign that
That's right.
collateral document. So if all
That
4
way they
people
can get the
signed
whole
it and you
property.
didn't pay, yep, you could do the foreclosure. So great
Yeah.
question, Aaliyah, Christina, and let us know if that didn't answer. Um, Lady G came back and said she's in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the area we're in. So, Chris, are you offering any classes anytime soon?
Yeah, as it turns out, we have a day class that will be starting on March 18th, and it will be Mondays and Wednesdays, and it will be 9:30 to 2:45. We try to cater to people that are dropping off their kids and picking up their kids. We try to fit in that window while we're doing that. What we will do is we will also have review sessions on Friday. Now, these will be Zoom, but it will be live instruction, okay?
What's the email address for that? I mean, what website should they go to see more information?
They should go to 24/7 School of Real Estate.
Is there a dash or anything in there?
Nope. 24/7.
24/7
Yeah.
School of Real Estate.
Yep.
That's
Or
fine.
actually, do this for me. Do you mind giving these people my email address?
I don't mind.
Because
What's your email address? We're going to put it in the chat.
yeah, this is
CR
a brand new.
Barnett.
This is a brand new website, so I would rather give you a link to the website
right.
than try
Y'all,
to tell you.
I
It's
dropped his email in the chat. So if you want to see it, you have it. That's good. If you're watching this video later and for some reason you can't find it, put a message in there. Put a message in there. And actually what I can do, Chris, is I can change your name to your email address if you give me a second. So that way, guys, I promise you, he is one of my favorite ways. Like if I was doing a review, I would want Chris because he's so concise with what he does. I think that's right, CR
our
Barnett?
bar mail, well, at Gmail instead of .gmail, but
Okay,
otherwise.
fine. Why
yeah.
do you want me to get
Okay.
everything right all the time? Ugh. But there you go. And then you can
Okay.
also email me. I think you know how to reach me, but I will put my email in the chat as well. And both of us have classes going on, and you can find one of us for a class.
Now, on the day class, I actually will not be the main instructor. I'll be the backup instructor on that. Candace, you don't know this yet, but I've committed to night classes starting in late March and a Saturday class that will start in April after Ellie's flag season is over. So,
Because she's a
and
night
I
and
will
I'm
be
starting a
teaching those.
night class next week. So if you're
Okay.
ready, Lady G, next Monday night, I'm going to start back up.
We
All
got
right,
stuff.
Let's get to our next question. Antoinette asked the difference between subject to and assuming a loan.
Okay.
That's a big sigh. You want me to take it?
Yeah, why don't you take this one? I just taught the update class and we talked a lot about it, but at a really high level. And I don't know if you need to go that far on for test purposes. So give them
I
what
would
you
say
think.
this. I would say, y'all, you broke them. I love you all for that. But no, so here's the difference. It's about responsibility. Let's say Chris has a mortgage on his house. If I assume his loan, we talk to his bank, and his bank is going to let me take over his loan. So the responsibility to pay is on me. He's out. He's done. He's bye. But if purchase subject to, this is where Chris is like, hey, Candace, I'm moving to the beach in North Carolina. But I don't want to get rid of my loan, and you want to buy my house. So, Candace, why don't you finish making the payments on my loan for me? That's when you purchase subject to, it's considered a type of almost like seller financing where I'm paying Chris and I'm going to pay Chris over time. And then we're not going to move he's going to just pay his loan off. I'm purchasing it subject to. I'm going to pay his bank directly. So he's still involved. And that's really the big difference. Assumption, I'm involved with the bank and the bank is looking at me. Subject to, the bank, I'm making the payments, but the bank is still looking at Chris if it goes wrong. So that's about as deep as I go into it. Chris, is there anything that you want to pay?
Yes, I was just making a note to myself here to make sure I didn't forget it. Who asked that question?
That was Antoinette.
Okay, Antoinette. Good question, and it might come up for test purposes from a vocabulary standpoint. So that's all you would need to know it at a very basic vocabulary standpoint. It would be a level 1 if it shows up at all. One thing you did hit on that's very important, and you will absolutely be tested on this, is that you can't assume a mortgage unless it does not have a due on sale clause.
What? You know
in it.
what? Let me say it again, Chris, because I'd say it again.
Okay. You cannot assume a mortgage unless it does not have a due on sale clause. There are two types.
Hear that? That's the mic drop. That's the mic drop on that fact. That is so important.
I got my music. I've only been here for a few minutes. I got my music. This is awesome. Coming back. All right. Now let's stay focused on this for just a moment. There are two types of loans that we know are assumable, and that's FHA and VA. Why are FHA and VA assumable? Because they don't have a due on sale clause. Is conventional assumable? No, because it has a due on sale clause. And what that means is when you sell the property, you have to pay off the loan. So that's the important part that occurs for the test
What's
purposes.
the name? And I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to let y'all answer it. What's the other name for a due on sale clause? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see if you all can answer it. Can you tell me?
Starts with A.
Starts with an A. The other name of a due on sale clause. I mean, I wish that we didn't have a lag, but we do. We'll see how far y'all get, how far I can wait. I know there's got to be a lag. I know that somebody, oh, there it is. There we go. Jennifer with the right answer. She said alienation clause. You know what?
That's a good job, man. Y'all are doing a very good job.
That is the right answer. That is the right answer. It is the alienation, the due on sale clause. However, if you said acceleration, remember, acceleration and alienation are very similar. They both make you have to pay the loan today. The difference is alienation or due on sale is because you sold or you alienated yourself from the title. Acceleration clause is because you defaulted on paying your mortgage. So very good. I told you my guys are geniuses, Chris. I told you.
Okay, they're actually more genius than what they think they are, okay? And so here's one of the things, and you've probably told them this, Candace, since I'm new to this, I don't know. You can make flashcards. And if you go to the vocabulary and you do the flashcard based on what's in the vocabulary, you're not going to know what the hell it means, okay? But what we just did in breaking this down, if you were to put those on a flashcard, you could fly through hundreds of them, concentrating on just the variables that are going to come up in those questions. And
You're
it'll be
talking about
much
the
more,
synonyms, right?
Yep. It'll be much more meaningful to you that way.
If only somebody had made a video on synonyms on her YouTube or
Yeah.
made a document with lots of synonyms that they could buy. Man,
Yes.
Chris, wouldn't that be amazing if there
That-
was a free YouTube video or something that they could do?
That would be amazing and prescient for someone to realize that that's the way it's tested, by knowing your vocab and your synonyms.
All right. We had another question, and Chris, I'm going to let you handle it because you kind of started talking about it. Can we explain lien theory versus title theory and deed of trust? Can you explain lien theory and title theory and how it relates to a deed of trust?
Okay. All right. So the nation is divided into states that have a lien theory or title theory. So the first thing.
Wait, Chris, I'm going to just take you for 1
crap.
second.
I forgot.
It could be the intermediate theory. There is a third option. So like if you're Michigan, because somebody did ask, where could I get help with individual Michigan stuff? I got nothing.
Okay.
But
And I don't know jack about that because I don't teach in Michigan. But lien theory states use in other words, this is one of those cases where you just draw out errors. Okay. Lien theory state means you use a mortgage, and you use a mortgage truly as the word is meant. A mortgage is a two-party instrument. You go to the money, as Candace said earlier, you go to a bank to get money. When the bank gives you money, they say, you look like a nice guy, but the fact is we need some collateral, and they put a lien on your house. So that's a lien theory state, two parties, and you're going to use the word mortgage. In states that use the title theory, that is a three-party instrument. And you say, what's different about that? Well, you still go to the bank to get money. The bank still wants collateral. But what the bank does is when they loan you money, they have you, now keep in mind, when you're talking about buying property, the seller sends a warranty deed of some sort typically to the buyer. So the grantor gives the deed to the buyer, okay, who becomes the owner. What a title theory state does is when the bank gives you money and you buy that house, you transfer the title under what is known as a deed of trust to a third party called a trustee who is going to hold title to that property for the beneficiary who is the lender. So the other thing you need to do is know your vocabulary in regards to the title theory state. You have the borrower, who is often known as the trustor. You have the third party, who is known as the trustee. And then you have the lender, who is known as the beneficiary. Why is the borrower called the trustor? Because they're giving up their property as collateral for a debt. Remember, the OR is always giving something. The trustee is receiving something. Here's a weird comment for you on the title theory state. In a title theory state, if you have a deed of trust in place, the trustee is the legal owner of that property. Now, they can't do anything for it, with it. They're holding it for the benefit of the bank. But technically, they are the legal owner of that property. The buyer, the trustor, has what's known as an equitable interest in the property. As long as they do what they're supposed to, they ultimately will get title to that property. Go, Candace.
If I were to say that there's an owner, the owner has title, and then they give that title using a deed of trust. They give that title to the trustee. And now that trust or that trustee has legal title, and that owner ends up having equitable title. Would you say that's correct, Jess?
Perfect.
And then we call the bank the beneficiary. And there's three parties. There's the owner, there's the trustee, and there's the beneficiary. So y'all already knew I couldn't draw, but that's my drawing of it. So the difference is in a title theory state, you're using title or ownership as collateral. In a lien theory state, it doesn't say alien, although it does. There's just a lien. All the bank has is a lien on the property. And then if the bank wants to foreclose, they have to go to court. And just because I know I have people from Michigan on here, go Michigan, a intermediate theory is in between. What happens is you start at a lien theory and you're telling the bank, if I stop paying, then I'll give you title. So we can end here as a title theory. So that's all an intermediate theory is. It's saying we're going to treat this like lien theory where I get to keep ownership of the property. But if I default, I'll go ahead and give you ownership, just like with a title theory state, so we don't have to wait as long for a foreclosure process. So hopefully my drawings aren't awful and that makes sense to you all. Chris, did that kind of make sense? Does my drawing make sense to you?
It did. And of course, you and I are on the same page. So that's fine. But again, when you're making a flashcard on this, you put these bad boys side by side. Lien theory, title theory, mortgage versus deed of trust, 2-party versus 3-party, names of the party, and then throw in intermediate as well if you need to do that if you're in Michigan. Just compare and contrast these, and I promise you that you're going to get that answer right. The deed of trust is almost impossible to understand, and the reason it's almost impossible to understand, you're like, wait a minute, I thought I just bought this property, and now you're telling me I have to give it up to somebody else? But
you know
it's
how I explain it is like a car.
it's a conditional conveyance. It's conditioned as long as you pay your mortgage. As long as you pay your loan, you're going to eventually merge title, legal, and equitable title.
Isn't it just like a car loan? We are all very common. We're used to the fact if you have a car loan, when Chris buys me my brand new Tesla, if he has to take a loan out on it,
your Nissan Leaf.
We all know the bank owns that car. I'm just driving it. The bank has legal title to the car. I have equitable title. I get the title when Chris finished paying off the loan for me to own this Tesla. Like, that is the same. Title theory just means we're treating having a loan for a house like we treat having a loan for a car, where you're using the ownership as collateral. If you understand that, then you understand title theory.
Can I say one thing on
Yes.
this, because I want to make sure I didn't confuse who asked that question.
I don't remember now.
Okay.
Let's go.
I use the word owner where you use the word title, so that may have been a little bit confusing to them. Candace probably used the word a little more appropriately. There's this theory referred to as hypothecation. And so what happens is when I buy the property, even though I've given it up as collateral for the debt, I have a right to live in it. I have the right to possession. I have all the rights of ownership, but I technically have given up legal title. So Candace, title probably was the better word to use in that case.
So you're saying I'm better than you.
I'm saying that you're right-ish.
Right-ish. Okay. All right. Next question comes from Christina. Do we think just watching videos is a good way to study? And I'm totally taking this because people know I am a fanatic about this. Christina, I do not think just watching videos is a good way to study. And here's why. They pay us to make this stuff sound easy. They literally pay us to explain to you title theory versus lien theory and hypothecation and encumbrances. So if you watch a video once or twice, by the third time, of course you're going, oh, that makes sense. But there's a big difference between you knowing it and you just being familiar with it because we've said it. Or let me give this example. I know nothing about cars. I could watch a video on YouTube of somebody explaining how to change the oil in my car. But no matter how many times I watch the video, if I were to do it on my own without any prompting, I probably would mess it up. And that's how I view finding videos. I think videos are really helpful for getting the understanding. But I also think you have to do other types of studying and other types of recall to make sure, oh, it's not just familiar when Candace and Chris talk about it. It also, I could talk about it too. Because when you can talk about it, then you know it. So I feel very strongly about that. So much so, I have videos on different ways to study. I have a class on how to study. Yes, I love questions. Yes, I love videos. But I don't think it's enough. But that's my soapbox. Chris, what would you say?
Well, I would say if you watch my videos, you're going to pass without any problem. No, I'm just joking. Videos are really good, but I don't know if you know this, but the human attention span is only like 8 minutes. So in theory, you would have to stop every 8 minutes, ask yourself what you just watched, build on that, watch it another 8 minutes, which is fine, okay? So the videos are a tool. Interestingly enough, this is where Candace and we go our separate ways a little bit on this. I like questions. I like tons and tons and hundreds of questions because what I do is I'm a kinesthetic learner, and the closest I can get to kinesthetic learning is a question which allows me to break it apart. Why was this right? Why was that not right? It's my learning style. So I like videos and questions, and Candace, you like what?
Well, actually, I think it's funny. We like the same things. I just put an emphasis on take the question and then break it down. And that's
Yeah.
where I think students, they take the question, they see what the right answer is, and they move on. They take the question, they see what the right answer is, move on. But both of us feel the same way. I
Right.
just put more of an emphasis on it. The break it down and see what you can learn from it. So I think questions are great, but you can't just see the answer. You got to do that breakdown he's talking about. And then it's where I learned it from. You taught me many moons ago, almost 20 years ago, that's how students need to study. So I learned it from watching you. Okay.
Well, I'm glad something stuck. And actually, I'll say this about questions as well. And it's so funny. I just had a student that came back. She had taken one of our online self-paced courses, which are fine, but they're not everybody's style. And I perceived that this was a smart woman as she was talking to me because she really had a good understanding of the topics. But she said, Chris, I didn't pass the state portion of the exam. And she asked me some questions. She's like, and by the way, obviously you guys know this, but you're not supposed to memorize questions, bring them back and ask us. But sometimes people come back and they just want to know, I saw this, I don't understand why this is what they was. So occasionally it does come up. So Candace, she did an amazing job of doing exactly what we say. Eliminate two. All right. You read the four answers, two of them are clearly not the answer. So now she has it down to two potential answers. And she's like, I swear, at any given time, I can make an argument that either one of these is right. Candace, I don't know if you found this to be the case, but my new theory on questions is that which one is always right. And what I mean by that is I have a tendency to try to read something into the question. Well, this one would be right if. You need to stop that. Okay? Everything you need is in the question. And if you have to say this one would be right if, that means it's not correct 100% of the time, which means it's not the correct answer.
Yes. Y'all, he's spitting gold. He is spitting some fire tonight, y'all. I hope you are picking up what Chris is throwing down. Now, I know we only have 15 minutes, but I'm going to tell you all, I think I already mentioned this. Chris is a math genius. Most of the math you've ever seen me do for you all has already been vetted by Chris, because if you leave it to me, 2 + 2 will be 6. But we do have a math question in the chat that I'm going to put it on the screen, and then Chris,
Gosh, Candace.
I haven't. How do you do it? This was the question, but I put the details on my screen. I'm going to change to the iPad. But guys, what we need to do, if you're interested, if you want to master the math and not use a T-bar, Chris is your man. Nothing I've ever given you that was math-based did not touch his hands, because he's just so much better at math. So I'm going to read the question. I'm going to put it back on the screen again, read it, and then I'm going to switch to my iPad, and he's going to lead you all through it. So,
okay, Candace, you were being overly kind on that, so be gentle with me here.
Don't get it wrong now, Chris. If a house was sold for $360,000 and the buyer obtained a mortgage loan for $288,000, how much money would the buyer pay in discount points if the lender charged 2 points? So I'm going to go to my iPad. And Chris, talk to us. What do we need to do? And I'm actually going to take you off the screen so they can see all the screen. What do we need to do?
All right. First of all, this is a math question. The mechanics of it, as it turns out, are not extraordinarily difficult. It's the thinking on this one that you need to focus on. So you have to remember what your rules are. The rules are that a bank charges discount points based on the loan amount. So based on that little piece of information right there, that you could eliminate the $360,000, it is irrelevant to this question. There's another rule that says this: the bank will charge you 1% for each discount point. So what I've just learned is that there are 2 discount points, and the bank will charge me 1% for each of those. So basically, the bank is going to charge you 2% of $288,000. Now, Candace, do you like to T-bar these, or do you
not in this type. So I have special T-bar videos, but we're going to do basic math. You said we need to find, we're looking for, what is 2% of the loan amount?
The loan amount, right.
And we know that loan amount was $288,000. So, Chris, what do we need to do? What math do we do to find that?
In this case, the function is simply going to be the loan amount times the discount points, which would be the 2%, will be the dollar amount that you paid for the discount points. And that so 288,000 times 2% comes out to 5,760 or something like that.
Oh, you didn't do the math, Chris. Slacker. 28800 times 2%, $5,760. Final answer. So hopefully, Marissa said you are awesome sauce. That helps.
Okay, well, thank you for that. But let me tell you, the most important thing that you just learned is how to read a question and then try to get really, really good about eliminating the things that you don't need. Because in math questions, the functions are going to be, logical. I don't want to say easy because for people that are not math people, they really have to think through this, and Candace will help you with the T-bar if you're not a math person. But the thing that's tricky to me is I read the dang things too quick. And then I grab the wrong number. And the minute you grab the wrong number, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to be wrong. And secondly, that answer will be there because the test makers can assume that you're going to grab the wrong number.
Yeah, I love it. Christina said, and let me come back to us. Y'all don't want to see that screen anymore. Boop. Christina asked, how can I get a better understanding about questions I saw on the test and weren't sure about because I know we aren't able to repeat them, but I will feel like I'll never know the answer. So I'm going to say this, and I don't want everybody in the world to get excited. Y'all listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Not everybody can get excited, but some states like Arizona, if you miss the test, I think it's either 2 times or 3 times, some states will let you review the exam. You can't take notes like pencil and paper. You can just review. So that might help if you're in one of those states. Look at your real estate candidate handbook guideline. You know what? It's usually a Pearson VUE state. And you just have to call your state and say, hey, is there any way I can review? It's a little secret. Not everybody knows. But most of us will not be able to do that. So what I would suggest would be when you take the exam, and if you don't pass, it's not what I want for you, but if it happens, then once you get, just keep a paper and a pencil in your car and write down vocab words that you remember. Vocab words that you remember, because there is no other way to get what you saw on the test to, hey, what do I need to study? Because it is illegal. You will not get a license. In our state, people have lost their licenses because they came back and said this question was on the exam. No. But what you can say is, I had a question on holographic wills. Let me see what that means. I had a question about home insurance. Let me go brush up on what an HO3 is or an HO6 is. So, I don't know. Do you have any other suggestions for her besides that?
No, I mean that's the toughest question because if you don't pass, you feel bad, okay? And obviously there's the money part of it, there's the timing part of it. I get that, but I mean this is just like anything, and I hate to get philosophical on this, but the fact of the matter is there's somebody in North Carolina. I think the state record is they took the test like 17 or 18 times, and eventually they passed. Well, today they're a real estate agent. Okay, and that's what your ultimate goal is to get there. So I know it's frustrating. What Candace says is correct. If you're seeing patterns of things that you're not getting right, that's the test telling you what to study. And that's great. If you're weak in one area, that's almost better because you can focus on that. It's when you're all over the place. That's when it's super, super frustrating.
Yeah.
But I don't think it changes anything we've talked about tonight. Go to where the points are, focus on the 3 to 5 things that are important about each point, and you just know those. And I will tell you, in our state, and we have a tough state section, but if you know the rule will save you because oftentimes you think, well, gosh, this one looks right, that one looks right, but the rule says specifically this. And I'm not talking about memorizing rules. I'm talking about recognizing when you're being asked a test question that relates to a rule. In our case, it would be agency. They are very much based on the text of the rule.
I agree. So a couple of things. One, do you all think we should invite Chris back? You got to put it in the chat because you all see I'm much more subdued, scary, when Chris is here because he actually keeps me grounded and I can get
This is
stuff done.
subdued?
He helps my ADHD. So do we want to have Chris back? And y'all, he's really good at math. We can set it up so that you all you and Chris can do a math thing if you all want. I am totally not afraid to admit that Chris is a much better math teacher than me. So there's that.
That's
The
not
second-
true, but thank you. And we can do some of that if you want to.
Related to that is, guys, when he was talking about once you know you have a section that you're struggling with, once again, he's really good at teaching the finance chapter too. you can come to a crash course. He has reviews. I have reviews. Just reach out to one of us. You have his Gmail there. You know how to reach me. That's good. Oh, you're getting resounding yeses here, Chris.
Are they putting little hearts in there? Because it doesn't count unless they put little hearts.
Guys, give him his emojis.
Okay,
Guys,
thank you.
give him his emojis. And then third, oh, I was gonna say something else. See, you said emojis, Chris. You ruined my ADHD. I don't know, but we will definitely invite him back. Yay, I will. Because guys, here's the thing. I know I'm a lot, and I know my sessions with you all are all over the place. Chris can help you sometimes get that down, and we will do more of these together. And I think that was pretty. Oh, somebody asked, what if you don't know when to multiply or when to divide? That is a great time to take one of my courses, whether it's live, tutoring, whatever, a recorded course on using the T-bar. That's exactly when the T-bar is needed. So, guys, here's the thing. It's not your first time meeting Chris. If you've been on my channel, I do videos with Chris already. So it's not the first time, nor is it the last time you're going to see Chris. Again, I appreciate that he brings me from here to here. And I think that's it, Chris. Anything else you can think of?
Without getting into a lot of math,
You
let
got
me
your
mention
hearts,
this.
by the way.
What's that? I'm sorry.
You got your hearts.
Oh, good. Now I'm in now. Let me say this about math. It is that a lot of people that don't consider themselves to be math people, they psych themselves out. But what I want you to do is I want you to just think logically. So let me give you a simple example. People that are not comfortable with percentages and interest and stuff like that. As an agent, if I sell a house for $200,000 and I make 6%, well, if you multiply 200,000 by 6%, you get $12,000, and that makes a lot of sense. If you divide 200,000 by 6%, you end up getting some number like 12 million or whatever the number comes out to be, which wouldn't make sense that you would make that much commission. Also keep in mind, and we'll work on this some, work backwards from the answers as well. So what I'm telling you is when people psych themselves out on math, what they're doing is they're reducing their chance of getting it right. When you strategize around math, you actually say, you know what? Here's the deal. Candace showed me how to do net to seller. She told me how to do percent of profit. She showed me how to do this, this, and this. If I get 6 out of the 8 math questions right, I'm golden. If I get 5 out of 8, I'm probably okay as well. So in other words, you try to minimize the damage that it does to you. I'm the same way when it comes to agency. Minimize the damage, get your points somewhere else.
Chris, let's be honest with them. And you already know. If I can do this math, and Chris knows my ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. If I can do this math, would you please tell them that they can do it? Like, let's just be honest about my math skills in general.
Well, let's say this, is that you don't realize the curse of people that are overconfident on math. I told you a little bit earlier, I'm overconfident on math. Sometimes I misread it and I jump to what I think the answer is instead of what the answer is. Because Candace has broken it down into a formula. What happens is she has a very, very good chance of getting something right. And then the mistakes you do make are sometimes by haste as well, because we're trying to do so many over a short period of time. But you've developed the system around it, which is going to get you more right than not.
The T-bar is great. Like, I do love the T-bar. So, guys, if you're one of those people, when Chris was like, if you take it and you multiply and then you divide, like over here, I was like, I don't know, you've lost me. Then you need a T-bar. But if what he said was like, oh my God, that makes total sense. Why didn't I just think about it that way? Then you're a algebraic, just do it the basic, quote unquote, normal way. And neither way is better or worse, but you have to stop being afraid of it. Both of us agree on that one. To get the math right, you have to just either, hey, embrace the T-bar, which will take you longer. It's more steps, but it'll get you to the right answer. Or you just look at it and try to slow down and really logic your way through it, which is great if your brain works that way. There's no one right way. So, Chris, can you believe that it's been an hour already?
I want to keep talking. I got more to say.
Yeah, I know you do. You always do, sir. You should talk to me while you buy me a steak. That's what you need to do. But, guys, I want to thank you, as always, for being here with me, for being here and welcoming Chris to our little good job. We call it the hashtag GJG, Good Job Gang, for our song. right? And I don't know, are you going to come back if I invite you?
All you got to do is invite me, and I will be back because I'd pay money just to hear the song when people succeed. I love to see success. I love to see you guys just get in this business and rock it.
Y'all, he said pay money. Maybe not to y'all, but to me. How about you pay me $100 every time I get to play that song? Just, no? Okay.
We'll negotiate.
We'll negotiate. See, that's how you know you're a good real estate agent. And guys, oh, I almost forgot to tell you all. I am working on some new agent training. It'll involve Chris. It'll involve all these people that I'm bringing to you. We are all real estate agents who have done it, who have helped people, who have coached and trained. And one of them I'm really excited about is somebody who did this in their 20s and within a couple years was making six figures. She is going to be part of this. How do I get started in real estate? So be on the lookout for that because I'm so excited. We've been helping you pass the test, and Chris is going to help me, and other people are going to help me help you get success. So, guys, I will see you next time. Say bye, Chris.
Bye bye. Thanks, guys, for letting me be here. Candace, thank you for inviting me. Good to see you.